We have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. And I don't know why, like, we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistency.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true.
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say. All right, we are back with Seminole Sideline 365. Once again, I am KB, and with me is the old man. How's it going? How's it going? How have you been? Thank you guys for being back with us. It's been a while, but once again, we said we'd come back, of course, when the season's here and there's something to talk about, and there is now plenty to talk about. We are 1 week out, less than a week out, from the Florida State game with Georgia Tech in Ireland, and I got my green on, so I'm ready to go. But old man, before we get into that, before we talk about our season predictions and give our, rundown of how we think the season will go and put them on paper, how are you doing today? How's it been going lately?
Busy. Generally busy. Anybody who thinks retirement is like you sitting around eating potato chips, pork rinds, watching the Beverly Hillbillies or one of those old shows is nuts. I finished rehabbing my guest bathroom, by myself, and I've now moved on to the master bathroom, and the vanity's in place. Got to do a lot of the fine touches. A bunch of crap arrived from Amazon today. It makes it easy. You shop there, and it shows up the next day. How they do that, I don't know, but they got a pretty damn good process. You know what Coach Norvell says? Believe in the process. And Amazon, I believe it. And tomorrow, a bunch of stuff's going back to Amazon and returns that didn't quite work out.
I'll say that's the best part of their. I never fully embraced the return process with Amazon, but the fact that you can just put it back in the box and give it back to a UPS store is. That's really sold me back on them, is that I can, if a shirt doesn't fit or the pants are too long or the part isn't in the box or whatever, I can drop it off, get a full refund within hours, and it's just.
Yeah. Do they have in yours? Now you can just go in. They have automatic machines. You can do it yourself.
Oh,
you don't have to hand it to an employee, and then you can scan it, put it in the bag. But if it's not a long line, I'd give it to the guy to do.
I go to the UPS store. They have the process down there. Like, I show the barcode, they scan it, they take it.
Yeah.
It's literally a 30-second process. They know who people are coming in for mostly. I think UPS store gets more business from Amazon returning things than they do for shipping stuff themselves. I would love to know what they have with Amazon, because I want to know what percentage of their revenue is that return service. Or what part of the process is. They have to be making some money from Amazon for doing that, and it's probably a good amount of money for facilitating the return process on behalf of Amazon. So it's interesting, but I don't want to get too far into that. But it's like
wait a minute, and we'll save this for another show intro. Temu is starting to challenge Amazon. Yeah. We'll save that.
We're glad we're back. We're glad to be with you, Jalen. Said it best. We're glad to have you out here, Mike. Thank you, everyone, Jalen, Mike, everyone for joining and being back with us. We're excited to be back. We're excited for the season.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
It's gonna be a great year. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be an exciting year because there's a lot of unknowns with this team, in my opinion. And I think you're starting to see some of those things come out on Twitter with certain fans feeling certain ways. But that's what makes college football so fun, is because anything can happen from week to week. You can have the best team fall to the worst, to a mid-tier team. Anything can happen. So we're going to go through that tonight. We have two things we're going to go through tonight. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tier out what we feel are the rankings for the individual position groups at Florida State, from quarterbacks down to special teams, right? So we're going to give our feeling where we think those rank, because I think last year Florida State was in a very, very good place across the board, across their position groups. And that's displayed on the field from a perfect season, should have been a playoff berth and beyond. And they showcase their depth and they showcase their quality across both offense and defense positions. But you lost a lot to the draft, and that's the result of having a great quality roster, right? You lost a ton to the draft, and I think we have to go back now and look, what did this roster bring in, both high school and transfer-wise, and how do we think that will project this year in the position group? So we're going to rank that first, and then lastly, we'll close up with what are our week-by-week projections, and do we think Florida State will make it to the postseason based on those projections? So stay with us. We're going to spend some time on both these things, so we think they roll into one another. If we both believe that we have poor position groups, that's going to lead into why we believe Florida State may lose a couple of games this season. Or if we have position groups ranked high, that will lead into why we think they'll go undefeated this season. So stay with us. Give us your thoughts, your comments, your feedback as we go through this. If you disagree or agree, we want to hear this. All right. You hear me now?
The other thing is we're going to talk about fine bum, right? Fine.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. Fine bums statements, and that'll be right before we get into game results predictions. So,
all right. So, like I said, and let me know if I break up at all, because I know my mic's being a little wonky here. But we're going to go through each position group. So we're going to rank them as a group, not individual player, but group. I do have the specific icons to represent a player within the group, but we're ranking the group as a whole. So we'll start with quarterbacks. And now we had to come to a consensus on this. This has been pre-scripted. I haven't talked to the old man in a week or so this definitely isn't pre-planned what our thoughts are. But we have to come to an average based on what he and I think on where this group is going to be ranked. All right, old man, let's start with the quarterbacks. As you know, DJU comes in, ton of experience. You bring him in. There's a debate over whether Florida State wanted Cam Ward or DJU. You lose Jordan Travis, who is, by all regards, an FSU legend. But you have to replace that talent, that playmaker in the backfield leading this team, and you bring in DJU. We know what you have behind him, Brock Glenn. You bring in Luke as a highly rated high school recruit. You saw what Brock Glenn could do in a couple of games there. He still leads you through an ACC championship game with that win. But I want to see, what are your thoughts on this quarterback room? From great to poor, how would you rank that quarterback group?
Good question. Well, it's clearly I'm debating between. I can't go. I can't go great, and it's the same problem we've had the last couple of years. I'm going to put it as above average. Okay, I'm going to put above average in my opinion, and quickly the reason is I think DJ. I think DJ is more than capable of winning a lot of football games here. The question is he capable of winning the right football games here? Sure. Now, this guy who was brought in based on his experience level, okay? And there's guys think he struggles at times, all these analysts, and there's guys who thinks his ceiling has been met. He doesn't have any other upward mobility on this. He's played in 40 football games. Yeah. 40 football games. He has a 30-10 record. He has over 9,000 total offensive yards. He's got over 8,000 passing yards, 57 touchdown passes. Yeah. He's run the ball for over 1,100 yards and 21-yard TDs running the ball. 22-6 at Clemson when he played 3 seasons there. So he brings a level of maturity, a level of focus that I think clearly it's above average plus. It's not great, but it's average plus. People say he's a journeyman. He moves around. That's the knock on him. But in a Mike Norvell offense, I'm fully confident that he can move the football and score points given the other skills around him. Let me finish with this.
All right.
Brock Glenn is a worthy backup. However, I think he is still unproven as a offensive leader for this team just based on lack of experience.
I would agree with you on that point. Brock Ren's not ready to lead this team to the college football playoff. And I think if we were in that position, it would be scary. It's not to say he won't have a bright future, not to say he doesn't have potential. But he wasn't ready for the moment last year. And that's totally fair to him. He was a true freshman who got thrown into the fire.
Who did great.
I would say did great, but he did well enough to win the game. And the defense did its job.
He managed well enough to win the game.
That is correct to say.
Right.
And we are thankful for him for that and helping us win it.
But he hasn't proven yet.
Correct. And that's why, for everything you said about DJ, this is why he was your number one pick. And I believe that. I believe Mike Norvell saw the leadership traits of a DJ. His history and his veteran type skills to be able to manage a team, manage a locker room, and with believe Mike Norvell's thinking was, I can tweak some of these things in his game to make him a better player, just like he did with Jordan Travis. And so that is what I believe is. I'll agree with you in above average because I need to see great out of this room, and I believe it's weighted heavily towards what is DJU's performance. But I believe with some of the experience, Brock Glenn got is great, but it'll come down to the performance of DJU. And I believe this season will show us, can that quarterback group go to great? But right now it's above average based on what we've seen so far from those two players. But above average is still good enough to get where we want to go this season. So
because it's he can't get to great on this room because the experience behind DJU drops way off. It drops way off like we found out last year. Even though we won and went 13-0 and got screwed in the end, the bottom line is not a lot of experience behind him.
Yeah, it's not like you have two former 5-star quarterbacks, sitting behind him. It's not that scenario. And that's not to say that Luke is a highly regarded high school quarterback.
But he hasn't played.
Well, I don't care about that because you're not going to have highly rated quarterbacks who haven't played sitting behind or who have played.
No, but it's a factor in the rating. It's a factor in the rating.
It's a small factor in my rating, but I'm going to agree with
you. It's a big factor in mine. Big factor in mine.
Well, we'll agree with above average and leave it there. So running back room, that's our next room up. You have, the only guy returning really for you with massive experience is Lawrence Toafili. You lose Trey Benson, obviously, who went to the Cardinals in the draft, and he's been showing off a little bit during the preseason, which has been fun to watch. But this is a room that's gone really thin on experience, if you want to say that, because Trey Benson, as we all know, was a could break out and have very, very big games. You brought in Roydell Williams from Alabama, who showed some flashes in what he could do with Bama, but once again, low on experience, high on upside. So you got to look at this room, but you still do have Keziah Holmes, who has shown some flashes, wasn't a bell cow for this team yet. You brought in Cam Davis, highly regarded, looks like he's a senior in college. He has the body type to show that he can play right away. And he also brought in Jalen Lucas from Indiana, who's a speedster, was an all Big Ten type player. But once again, you're lacking a lot of true game time experience outside of Lawrence Toafili. So what is your thoughts on this room? Let's start with you.
I'm going to go above average. Again, not based on past production, but I'm going to go on above average based on what I feel is talent.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the talent and the potential and high ceiling of the guys that you mentioned. I don't have to go through their names again.
Yep.
That if the offensive line, which is projected to be pretty damn consistent, and perform, it should allow the skills of these unproven running backs at this point to excel.
I would agree with you. And I think that's a perfect spot for him because, like you said, Trey Benson, was a highly regarded running back, hadn't done a lot of the work and got hurt, was able to rehab his career again at Florida State, and that's thanks to the Florida State staff and as well as his skill. I think you're going to hopefully see the same thing this year with Roydell and Keziah, and then Lawrence Toafili, who what he can do. So I agree with you, above average with the potential to be great this year. But I think that's the correct spot just based off of not knowing what a few of these guys can do when they get the majority of the carries.
I mean,
That's
they look like bulls, man. They look like they're ready to go hunt.
But that's that's the great thing is that you do this is a room that you do have quality talent and upside in. You have five former 5-star guys. You do have Cam Davis, who is a 5-star guy. You do have Lawrence Toafili, so you have a good mixture of quality backup depth as well as an established starter there.
But T.O. is the only production guy they bring back, and he had like 400 some yards last season.
Yeah,
and he's a quality guy. Don't get me wrong, but the room itself is not filled with production. It's filled with high level potential, and I think it's going to be a big factor in the season.
Exactly.
And they have depth there,
Exactly.
Unproven depth, but depth.
Exactly. So I think it's a good spot, and and I expect them to showcase what they have and hopefully bounce out to the great tier by the end of the season. Now we go to wide receiver. Once again, this is another room that lost a great amount of talent to the NFL. You bring in guys like Malik Benson, on the Jaylen Brown from LSU, Elijah Moore, and Lawrence LaWayne McCoy from the high school ranks. But you bring back a lot. The thing is, with the guys you bring back, once again, don't have a lot of catches or yards to their name. Deuce Spann, Ja'Kai Douglas, Hakeem Williams, Kentron. You can go on and on. So you have a lot of bodies, but just not a lot of numbers behind them. So this is another tough one, right? You expect big things. You have a lot of projected skill and projected talent, but you just don't have the numbers to say it's going to happen because you lost guys like Keon. You lost guys, proven guys with proven numbers, and you didn't bring proven numbers in to replace them from the portal. So once again, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel about this room, and where do you think how that room will perform?
Well, I hate to say that I agree with a number of the analysts out there that are really kind of thumbs down on this wide receiver room. However, I look across the board on everything. I've looked at the training reports coming out of camp from the media that are allowed access in there. And to be honest with you, that media has been up and down on the wide receiver room for most of the camp, that they've been inconsistent. They'll have occasionally a guy will flash, but they don't say so-and-so is consistent except for one guy, and that is the transfer, Malik Benson. Okay? That Malik Benson has had an outstanding camp and has to be rated the number one receiver at this point on every opponent's scouting report. And I think if they're going to double team somebody, it's probably going to be a Malik Benson at this point. So at this point, given the guys that you see the common names, Kentron, Malik Benson, Hakeem Williams, highly sought after guy that hasn't exploited that potential yet. You've got redshirt senior Darian Williamson, who has done basically nothing at Florida State, but this is his opportunity this year, him and Kentron. And then you've got some new guys, but Jaylen Brown and Ja'Kai Douglas, I mean, they could make a difference here. They've got a chance to prove themselves. So I think given all that, I don't see Deuce Spann as a big contributor on the outside there. More special teams guy. I'm going to go average. And I hope they prove me wrong.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because we've seen Ja'Kai make big plays when he's healthy. And in certain situations, I think Ja'Kai has and I've said this on past shows, I think Ja'Kai has the best hands on the team, but he's not always healthy, and you don't know when he's going to get banged up. He's fast, he has great hands, but he's not always available.
But some of the camp viewers have said he's been a little inconsistent too on catching the ball.
But I think some guys are practice players and some guys are game players. I've seen Ja'Kai in big games make big plays when available.
He's going to play a lot of football. He's going to have a lot of opportunities.
And I hope this is his chance to really step up and make big plays and be available for them. But it's availability. Are you available to play? And you mentioned Hakeem Williams. And I think it's one of those things where Hakeem, once again, he's got to show that he developed in the offseason, got his body right so that he is available to play.
And how about Destin Hill? Destin Hill's on the injured list again. I think those years out of football has really hurt this kid. I think Destin Hill is not going to be a contributor this year
fine.
again.
And that's fine. And that's fine. Let him get right, because there's plenty of guys that are going to need to have opportunities. You brought in really good freshman receivers. There's been some good
McCoy
words
and Moore.
Elijah Moore, once again.
And
someone's going to step up, though. So
Lawayne
as
McCoy.
You said,
yeah.
Malik Benson has a target on him already from scouting reports.
He does.
They show that. But Kentron, Darian, Hakeem Jakai, one of these other guys also. You need a Johnny Wilson and you need a Keon Coleman. You need two guys who can spread the defense. And so you need to find that second guy. And I'm not sure, because the numbers won't tell us who those guys are going to be. We need to know who those two guys are going to be. And I think that's what makes week 1 so scary, because I don't know who that reliable receiver is going to be outside of Malik Benson. And we're just projecting that's going to be Malik Benson, but he also doesn't have the numbers to back it up.
No, the production isn't there.
It isn't
there yet.
Yeah, but so I'm going to go with you as average right now, just based on what we've seen, what we've heard, and what we can project based on the numbers. But I believe this room does have young talent on it that can be great. But right now, I can go with average with you. I would agree.
You agree.
I agree.
Okay. All right.
Now we look at tight end, the tight end group. Once again, you lost Jaheim Bell, which I think we didn't utilize him or maybe get as much out of him as maybe a lot of us thought we would. But he had some big games. He had some big moments, which was great. And we're glad to have had him, because I think he was a special weapon. We started to see some of that pass catching tight end usage that we wanted to see out of Mike Norvell. He's wanted to use. You keep Kyle Morlock, right? Get another year out of him, and he showed that he has pretty good hands. And he brought in one of the top tight ends in the country, Landon Thomas. So you saw Brian Courtney as well and Jackson West. What do you expect out of this group? And do you think it's average, above average? I'll tell you what I think right now. I think it's an average group until I see otherwise. Once again, I think you're not going to have a major drop off from last year. I think it'll be about the same, unless we see Landon Thomas. We see that he can really break out as a freshman. And maybe he will be able to. But we haven't seen a freshman for Florida State break out on the offensive side in a long time and have I can't think of the last freshman offensively to really have a dynamic freshman year. Maybe he can be that guy, but I think as the group as it stands right now, I expect about the same as we had last year, which is average, above average level.
I haven't heard all the notes coming out of camp. Kyle Morlock is obviously your starter. This is a big year for him. This is his year. He's either going to show up and show out, or he's not going to make it at the next level of the NFL.
Correct.
So this is a big opportunity for him, and he doesn't have to have 40 catches. He just has to have some big-time catches and do some blocking and do those types of things. He's your starter. He's going to get most of the reps. The name I'm hearing in camp a lot is Jackson West.
Yeah.
That Jackson West, the redshirt junior, is having a very good camp. He's going to back up Morlock, I believe. And Landon Thomas and Brian Courtney are fighting for reps.
Yeah. And
I agree with you. I'm going to put it at average. Because there's no proven production there yet.
And I think the toughest thing, too, is for Landon Thomas on the field is that if you can't block properly, you're not going to be on the field.
Well, it's about lining up, too. Can you line up properly? Now, for tight end, there's not as much running around.
But it's blocking in the scheme. You have to be able to be an effective block, and that goes for the receivers too. If these freshmen like Elijah Moore, Jalen Brown, Lawayne McCoy, they cannot block effectively downfield, they won't be on the field because that is such a big part of this.
Well, Hakeem Williams showed he was trying to block downfield last year. Remember?
Yeah,
he got a lot of good kudos,
and that's why he got on the field a lot because of his blocking ability. So if you want to be a freshman that plays a lot or gets on the field and have opportunities, you got to be able to block.
You can't take plays off because there's a bunch of guys barking at your heels to get on the field.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I'll agree. Average, we are on the same level there, but it would be great to see some of these guys. And Jackson West, once again, he's been on this team for a while. I would love to see him have a breakout year as well.
Yeah, this is his time.
Yeah,
he's been in this program for a while now. So I hear decent things coming out of camp with him. So
absolutely.
Now when we say this, and I've put it on Twitter out there too, and some people may not like what I have to say out there. But when you hear the post-practice, post-scrimmage things from Coach Norvell, it's all vanilla Coach 101 talk. I don't get much out of it. And then the questions, which I always complain about, don't really challenge him, you know. And I think he gets a little bored, but no one's willing to challenge him from the media types. But you know, he constantly throws different names out there to keep everybody motivated. He knows the kids are watching, the players are watching him, what he says. So you don't learn much of anything. So
no. All right. We'll go to the offensive line as a group. So the projected lineups, or the roster got released today as well. So the projected, just to give, as we're talking about this group, you have left tackle Darius Washington listed as starter.
But you're talking about that for the Georgia Tech game, and we're going to talk about that on Thursday, right?
Yes, but I'm just so but we're grading this as a whole group. Yeah,
right.
We're just
okay.
Darius Washington, left tackle, left guard Richie Leonard, who's your transfer from Florida, center Maurice Smith, or Andre Otto, which is interesting. Maurice Smith, Keandre Jones, right guard, or TJ Ferguson. Those are marked as an or, and then Jeremiah Byers or Robert Scott Jr. So those are your projected starters there, just as we're thinking about this group. One transfer coming in already a starter, and then you have some guys as backups who are and then you have Jeremiah Byers still on the team, which is great. TJ Ferguson, another transfer in from Bama, who's listed as a co-starter as well. What are your thoughts on this offensive line, and where do you see them projected as?
Well, I've always my focus has been the offensive line for the last couple of seasons, and a lot of returning experience here, a lot of guys with a lot of snaps under their belt. I can't say great. I can't get to great, but I'm thinking it's above average plus. That is my hope for this line, because if they can get to above average plus, these running backs are going to have a field day. They're going to be getting some big yardage, okay? And this team, I believe, is going to be built around the run game, okay? Not the passing game. If we don't get the run game going and we have an effective run game every game, there's going to be problems with this unit, because this unit at the offensive line now, the Darius Washingtons, the Maurice Smith, Byers, these guys are all projected to be all ACC performers. Now, Ferguson and Leonard, these guys coming in as transfers, these guys are huge. But huge doesn't make you good, okay? No. So with all the guys here, all the experience, and I think they're going to try to get 5 men deep here, and there's going to be injuries. We know that. Yeah. Okay. They have a chance to be very good. I put them at above average plus.
I would agree with you there. I think they made some good additions. They lost a couple of guys, but not a lot. This is like you mentioned, an offensive line that you'll hear all year in every ESPN broadcast. They have the most experience of any offensive line. Experience doesn't necessarily mean you're an elite offensive line. I hate to break that to people. It's how you actually freaking play on the field, and how your team performs. And that's not to take any away from these guys, because I believe that experience has led them to play better, as we've seen over the years. They're not always the most consistent, though, I feel, in certain aspects of the game. Why is it so hard for us to get 1 yard on 3rd and 1? Why is it so hard for us to score in the goal?
They're not that dominant type of line that I would put them in the great category. They're not that dominant, in my opinion. We will know early on if our quarterback is standing up or is he down and running for his life. We're going to know.
And that's why there was a few times last year, where Jordan Travis had to run for his life because it broke down suddenly. And that's where it was just those situations where I'm like, why aren't we there with all of this experience? Why does that still happen? Right. But I believe, like, with the additions of Richie Leonard, a high upside guy like TJ Ferguson, you bring in a guy like Jacob Rizzi as a quality backup as well. You brought in the right pieces, I believe, to continue what you did last year, which is an above average line that can compete for an ACC championship.
Yeah, let's look who's on this line. You got Robert Scott, who's still kind of in a backup role, but he'll play a lot of snaps. He's a senior, redshirt senior. Byers is a redshirt senior. Richie Leonard is a senior. Yeah. Maurice Smith is a senior. Darius Washington is a senior. There's going to be a lot of guys behind them next year who are going to get a lot of opportunities, or they're going to have to go into the portal, which they probably will to get some offensive linemen.
Yeah, so I agree with you on that ranking. All right, now let's flip it over to the defense. Let's start with defensive end group. So this is a group that you bring back. You lost a lot. Well, you lost, one of the top players in the league in college football, in Jared Verse. He was a great pickup 2 years ago by Mike Norvell and the staff. But you also now can highlight one of the top players who will get a lot of shine in Patrick Payton. You also bring in, on the other side, Marvin Jones Jr., a legacy player who you wished you got out of high school, but now you get him on the back end out of Georgia. And then you also are going to we'll start with defensive ends. We're going to start with defensive ends, and we'll do the line. So Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr. You bring in Sione out of Oregon State, so you get that connection with DJU. And you also have Brian Turner, Aaron Hester, and Dante Anderson. I'll start first. I think this is going to be a above average group. I think, once again, you almost lost Patrick Payton in the portal. There was the rumors, things swirling. People almost, you could have lost him potentially, but you kept him. You bring back Brian Turner, who's gotten snaps over the years, because this is a group that likes to rotate, likes to bring guys in and out, and keep them fresh, which is great. And I think Byron Turner is poised to have a great season. I think Patrick Payton this is his money year, in my opinion, because this is his chance to show to the league, I'm ready. I'm ready to be a first round or second round pick, because I don't need, no more Jared Verse. I'm the star on the left hand side. And they also have Aaron Hester, Aaron Hester behind him. And then you bring in two guys. Sione from Oregon State has a ton of experience. You can watch his highlights tape. He's a senior. And they also bring in Marvin Jones Jr., who many believe is highly talented, but we'll have to see that in action. So I believe this is an above average group. If you had Jared Verse back, I think this is a great group, but I think I need to see if Marvin Jones Jr. is for real before I go to that great level.
Yeah, I see it as above average group based mainly on potential and promise. I don't see it based on production. Now, if we were just doing it on production, it'd probably be an average group, because besides Peyton and Farmer, they're the ones that put it to the above average. Yeah. Darrell Jackson is still unproven. He has great potential, but he hasn't played really here at Florida State. Okay, Marvin
we're talking
Jones,
about defensive ends only.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, defensive ends only. I'm sorry, I got misled there. Based on production, that's a tough one. That's a stretch. It's a weak above average rating for me. Weak above average, or above average minus, because there's no production there. Okay. Where's the production there?
Patrick Payton and Byron Turner and those guys have gotten a lot of run on them, and you can say,
but it's not elite.
And Sione Loloe, and I'm pronouncing that wrong, probably from Oregon State. He got a lot of burn at Oregon State and had some big plays with Oregon State. So you're totally discounting that just because you didn't watch them a lot.
That's true. I didn't see him play.
You're discounting that action. Yeah. So you're saying there's no production. Well, he has a lot. He was a starter at Oregon State. So.
I'm excited. Listen, I'm excited to watch that group, though. I am totally excited to watch that group to see if they can meet the hype about the potential that they bring to the game. This will be fun to watch that group put pressure on the quarterback.
And I think there will be obviously a drop-off because Jared Verse was just such an animal at that position. And I think there is going to be some surprise when plays aren't instantly made sometimes, because Jared Verse was a very special player. But I think they do now have there are going to be multiple players that will have to fill that gap in production. So we'll agree there. Average, low average, above average rating. But I think there is a lot of production there, and there's a lot of potential there.
Because I put my ratings a lot about the past production,
But you weren't even looking at the guy from Oregon State. You didn't even look at his production.
No, I didn't. You're right.
If you can't,
you got me there. You got me there. You got me there.
Let's look at defensive tackle now. So this is a group that does have a ton of experience coming back as well. You lost once again. You lost some players. Joshua Farmer, Daryl Jackson.
A ton of experience.
Once again, you have to look at everything they have. Well, a good amount of experience. Grady Kelly was a good amount of experience at Colorado State. Daryl Jackson, we know what he used to do at Miami. He had to sit out last year, played in the bowl game to end the season.
Yeah, how'd that go? How'd that work out?
Well, when half your roster sits out.
No, I know, and I'm not making fun, but I'm saying he hasn't shown a consistent level of production. Yeah, I know everybody thinks I'm like, oh, why are you so down on everybody? I'm not down. I'm based on performance, based on past performance. Daryl Jackson, I think, has the potential
because he started
good.
in 13 games at Miami. That's why we wanted him.
But we talked about that before. It really didn't show elite production, in that regard. Did he?
He had
Am I wrong?
4 tackles for loss and 3 sacks.
I wish one of our viewers would throw it up. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I just told you. He had 4.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks in his 1 year at Miami.
Yeah, I'm excited to see these guys play. I think when you put you put a Jackson and Farmer up there. Now Farmer's the guy. He's the king of that line right now. He has to have a good season. He has to have a very good season for this Florida State team, and I hope he has a very healthy season. Grady Kelly is going to be an interesting guy to watch. KJ Sampson, I think he's got to make a step forward as well. Daniel Lyons played some football. And then you've got Durajay. He'll be a very interesting guy to see how he steps in. I think you have 4 or 5, 6 guys there. They're going to get a lot of rotations early because of the heat and the humidity factors.
Yeah, I think you're giving this group a little bit less credit than it should. I mean, I think this is an above average, once again, an above average group.
I agree. I'm going to agree. But
Grady Kelly started in 22 games, was a freshman All-American from College Football News. This is a guy, once again, with a lot of experience. And he won't even be a starter. He won't even be a starter.
No, he's
He'll
not.
Be a backup. And that's how good this group, this is how much talent there is seemingly on this group, is that this guy took basically a demotion to go and play for Florida State.
Well, it's a bigger brand of football. It's a bigger brand, a bigger national stage. Plus, Odell rotates guys a lot.
Well, exactly. And like you just mentioned, KJ Sampson and the kid Tomowa from West Virginia. Once again, these are guys that are basically taking essentially demotions in position or playing time to go play for Florida State and be part of that rotation. So that's where I think, you still have Joshua Farmer and Daryl Jackson, who will be your 2 stalwarts. And then you have Daniel Lyons and Grady and Tomowa and KJ behind them to then leverage. So I think there's, once again, you lost some, you lost your stalwarts maybe in the front to the draft, but then you have a ton more bodies now behind them that can star. So I think it's the above average group. That
I hope Odell gets this group of 6 rotated early and often, to build confidence, build motivation, and get these guys going. Because that's how you get a guy going, by playing.
Well, I think he needs to find, too. Maybe he needs to find the pairing that works best together. He maybe find that Farmer or Daryl, or maybe it's Grady and Daryl work better. I think you got to find the rotation that works the best, too, and whose motors work well with each other, who's, stuff like that. It'll take some time, I believe, but I think you have a lot of quality depth.
Of course. And Odell's going to know what guy to put in under what situation at what point on the field. That's how you start to develop people.
Yeah. Losing a guy like Braden Fisk, once again, like Jared Verse, it's hard to replace. Those guys are very one of a kind.
Of course.
But you have now a lot of bodies to try to replace their production.
Right.
Now
a
to
lot of
linebacker.
potential. Yeah.
Now we go to linebackers, which has been a contentious, I think, discussion for us and how this group would do. You lost Kalen DeLoach. You lost Tannen Bethune. Both great guys now on to the next level. Kalen DeLoach has been getting a lot of praise at the next level, and potentially could be fighting for a starting.
He could
starting
make
position.
that roster if he's doing well on special teams.
No,
well.
He's been playing with the ones in camp.
Wow.
So he's been making a lot of noise, which is really good for him.
Good for him. Yeah. He's a good guy, and he works his ass off. So I hope it pays off for him. If not, you know what? He's getting so much look that if he doesn't make that roster there, he'll get picked up somewhere else.
Yeah, he good for him. And once again, those two guys are hard to replace. But once again, you brought in some bodies. But we both have agreed that this is going to be a really tough group to live back up to. And we thought it was maybe some issues in getting guys in. But I had to remind myself that late in the cycle, we brought in Cam Riley from Auburn, who was a guy with a lot of experience. So you brought in.
He's a senior, so
He's
been
exactly.
around.
So
He's
you brought
a big
in
guy.
because you only brought in two transfers this past off. Sean Murphy from Alabama, once again high upside, younger guy, low experience, but a big body. And then you brought in Cam Riley.
Well, DJ Lundy came back to us.
Came back, yes, you did. You did retain him from Colorado.
Yeah. And he knows the system better than anybody.
Exactly.
So he's going to be the leader to move guys around if they're out of position.
Yeah, so between him and Cam Riley, those are your two starters. Cam Riley's got 46 games of experience, 10 starts at Auburn. He's a senior, so he's 6'5".
High-level football.
6'5", 235, a big guy.
Yeah.
And then you've got DJ, like you said, who's 6'1", 241. So you got some big guys there. Now, I think the interesting thing to note is that they are – well, DJ Lundy on the roster is listed as a starter. Then you have Cam Riley, who's listed as or next to Blake Nicholson. And you've expressed doubts on Blake Nicholson and his ability to play this year or play at a high level this year. But let's look at it as a group. So Cam Riley, DJ Riley, you see them as your two linebackers. Justin Cryer, Blake Nicholson, both young guys who got some burn last year.
Omar Graham, Graham.
Yeah, three young guys who got a lot of burn last year.
And Murphy,
towards the end of the year. But they were playing as in very backup roles, and the game was kind of out of the line. They got to play in the Georgia game, which was kind of a wash. But they got some burn, not a ton, but in some portions last year because really Kalen DeLoach and Lundy and Tatum didn't get hurt last year, which was great, and they really held down linebackers position. So really, those guys are going to have to see burn unless Cam and DJ really, really hold down the position. But those guys are going to have to step up. So what are your thoughts on the linebacker role now with the two transfers coming in? And where do you rate it going into the season?
Wow. I tend to be a little conservative on these things. I'm going to go average. I'm going to go average based on lack of depth, of proven depth at this point. Cam Riley, I haven't seen a lot of Cam Riley tape or anything. But he's a big guy. He looks like the real deal.
He's
he's
a monster.
DJ Lundy, we know he knows how to play. So those two guys, how long can they stay on the field? How often do they need to be rotated off the field? Because when one of those two guys comes off the field, it's going to be a drop-off. Blake Nicholson, I like Blake Nicholson, but he's more of a pass guy, a third down linebacker who can go in and cover a running back well. He's probably your best cover guy in the linebacker room on pass coverage. Is he a physical guy at the line of scrimmage? I don't see him there yet, okay? I think Cryer or Graham are probably better at stopping the run. Sean Murphy, I'll be excited to see how he does. But here's the deal. All of these guys are going to get their shot to play at some point because somebody's going to get hurt, and you need the rotation, especially early in the season with the heat and the humidity.
Yeah. I think you made great points. I would agree with you on that. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm going to go with average. I just think there's too many question marks on the backups. And once again, it wasn't like Cam Riley was starting every game with Auburn. Can he? How does he work in pass protection, being that size and that big? I think pass protection with linebackers is going to be a question mark for me. And how do these guys like Justin, Blake, and Omar, how did they develop in the offseason? Can they step up when needed to? It's a lot of question marks for me on that group. And do they need another year of development in this offseason? So I think it's going to be average for me for now, and I would agree with you there. Last two groups are going to be the defensive backs. You bring a lot of quality. You lost some guys in the draft once again, but you bring back a lot of great. You bring back Zay Thomas, Kadarius Jones, Conrad Hussey, Shaheen Brown, Ashlyn Barker, Spencer Cypress, Edwin. You bring back a lot of guys, and a lot of these guys too. The backups, the young guys, they got a lot of burn last year, and we're not even talking about the freshmen you brought in, a star-studded freshman class on the defensive back end. I'm going to put this group And you also brought in guys like Devontae Brown from Miami, Earl Little Jr., Amarian Cooper's back. You brought in some guys that came back, star-studded freshman once again from, highly talented guys from Alabama. You got a lot of guys, a lot of pieces who came back, developed in the offseason as well, and a lot of guys you're excited about, too, from the freshman class. So I'm going to put this class personally at the above average level because I think, once again, is some of its production, some of its projection, and some of it is this is what I expect them to do because they should do it again because they already proved they could do it. That's why I have this defensive back, the group.
Yeah, I'll go with above average. Maybe a little bit on the plus side.
Yeah.
Not based on performance of the past, but based highly on what I have heard and believe is elite talent potential.
Yeah.
Elite, okay? There's guys that bring back the name to DBU here at Florida State. Shaheem Brown is a big year for him.
Yep.
He would like to make the jump to the NFL if he has a great year, and I believe he can. He will be the director back there telling people where they should be and so on. Osray Thomas, unbelievable talent there. This is another guy who's looking to have a big year for the Noles and for himself, and he's elite. Fentrell Cypress now is also ready to go to the next level. All of these guys are playing for the next level as well as they're playing for this team to do well. Yep. And then you've got a ton of elite new guys who just haven't been on the field at this level. So I think it's going to be an exciting room. But we all know this. That if it doesn't get done up front by the DNs and the DNs, there's problems because you can't chase around some of these guys for 5-6 seconds in the secondary.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. And the only reason, too, I hold them back from the elite or great status is I have questions around free safety and that battle between Devontae Brown and Conrad Hussey. We got to see who's going to win that and how that performs. But I agree with you, too. That defensive line has to do its job because that's what makes the defensive back and look great as well. So
now I would say this, too, KB, that out of camp, I'm hearing this group's names more than anybody's names. This is the group that seems to have done very well as individuals, and there's a lot of competition in that room. And I hear a lot of good things about Kevin Knowles. Kevin Knowles is the nickel. He's really got a lot of knowledge. He's been in the system a long time, and watch out for him. He seems to really have come on hard in this camp.
And people used to give him crap. I used to give him crap sometimes about some plays. And people say, well, his job's lost to guys like Earl Little or Amarian Cooper. And like you said, this is his last year. This is senior year. Could be his last year. So, he's fighting for that role, and I give him credit if that's true. And he's going to make his voice heard. So I think that's great for him. Last one, special teams. Ryan Fitzgerald is back. Max Romano's back. You got two great guys. And I'm going to group kick return and punt return into that grouping as well, just to make it interesting. We'll see who our kick return, punt return group is. Right now, I've seen some people listed as Deuce-Spann, Ja'Kai Douglas. But what if you had to include into that, like I said, kick return and punt return into it, which are unknowns right now. You had Keon Coleman back there who had great hands. You lose that this year, so it's kind of an unknown there. How would you rank this? I'm going to put it as above average until we know what that kick return and punt return.
No, they've got let's start down there on returns. Jalen Lucas, who we really haven't talked about.
You're right.
Jalen Lucas looks like he. Yeah. First of all, Jalen Lucas has. I think we're not here to discuss the Georgia Tech game. That'll come up on Thursday. But I think he surprised people. He's going to get a lot. He's moved himself up on that running back roster. Yeah. And he's moved himself up. And he is also slated to do a lot of work on these special teams. Yeah. Okay. So that's big news for him. I almost wanted to say special teams would be great. Yeah. A great minus. Yeah. Maybe a great minus, but I never thought I'd be saying that after a couple, before last season when we were all saying we got to have a change of kicker. Ryan Fitzgerald's got to go away, you know. But no, Ryan Fitzgerald got himself right, got himself mentally right, and he's being pushed there by some other kickers on the team, Jake Weinberg being the main one. And he is, all you hear is this could be one of the best special teams in the country with Mastromano and Fitzgerald. Now, if we can catch punts and get 5 or 6 yards, that'll be great, you know. And I don't Deuce Spann bringing the ball back from kickoffs. We've seen what he can do. So let's put it at the great level, of a great minus for me.
No, you're right, and I totally blanked that about Jalen Lucas. You brought him in for a couple of reasons, but he was the All Big Ten return specialist last year, so in the sophomore year. So that's a great replacement, Keon Coleman, obviously. And once again, and if he can do more than that for the running back room and then use his speed, I think this is a great replacement, if not a better replacement than Keon Coleman, because then you don't risk a great receiver getting injured, but he does that role perfectly, which is great. So I think your return game will get even better this year with Jalen Lucas if he stays healthy. And once again, as you mentioned, Ryan Fitzgerald became a liability 2 years ago. When you almost couldn't kick field goals, you had to go for on fourth downs you weren't scared to anymore. And he was 19 of 21 last year.
Right.
With a long of 48. So I think you have to put in the great Kyle. I don't want to jinx it, stuff like that, but he proved himself last year, 19 and 21.
Well, you know what? I think that special teams room is going to win or lose a couple of games this season.
Correct.
I think it's going to be that close. And it's going to be a nail biter, and nothing's taken for granted.
What I will say is that there wasn't many high volume field goal games. There's 2 games where he had to kick more than 2 field goals. Yeah.
Right.
So there was only 2 games where he had to kick more than 2 field goals in a game.
Right.
So that will be big, and to see if his volume goes up this year, where they trust him to say, we need you to step up and we'll take 3 versus 7.
That's right.
Or going for 7 or punting it. So it'll be interesting.
All right,
but
take us, KB, to Mr. Fine Bum.
Fine.
Okay, and I call him Fine Bum now. He's such in love with the SEC and his employer ESPN that he's pretty much follows the script. Okay, and Mr. Fine Bum came out and said some things about Florida State now as we rotate into the season. And we're going to go quickly over these games where we think they're going to lay out for the Noles.
Yeah. So as you pointed out, Feinbaum believes Florida State will be unranked in 2024. And for that to happen, I believe Florida State would have to lose probably 3 to 4 games. Because their preseason in the top 10, number 10. And so for Florida State to be unranked, you and I would each have to select them to lose probably 3 to 4 games on this. So are you ready to go into it?
Yeah, let's do it. But I was going to say, as you get us to the chart here, Feinbaum, he pulled it all out, man. He's saying, hey, FSU is totally overranked. They're going to be the most disappointing ranked team. They're going to fall out of the rankings by the end of the season, and that they still have a hangover from being left out of the playoffs, and they've used up too many tiers. So this guy really laid it on. I mean, and where the other ESPN analysts, like Reese Davis said we should be like ranked fifth, and people are starting to question whether he's trying to, because he's going to be over there in Ireland this week. Is he trying to play nice? What's his name? Herb Street has said, oh, this is great. Florida State's going to have a ton of fans over there. This is wonderful to see. They're all trying to play nice, but Florida State fans are not going to forget. So it's going to be a very interesting week on how this impacts ESPN crew and what the crew says or doesn't say, and how FSU fans react with their signs and chants. Yep, so it'll be fun. But yeah, we can get right in here to the predictions. And by the way, I'm going to mention this. And Robert Griffin III, former ESPN announcer and analyst, okay, He can come on our show anytime, Robert. If you're out there listening, come on if you want to and give his. But he came out and gave a full defense of Florida State and said they got screwed. Basically, he didn't say it in those words, but he said they got screwed. And a few days later, he's looking for a new job. So that's very interesting, and we'll let other people debate that.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, Florida State has one of the tougher schedules in the country. It may not look like it, but I think it's a very balanced schedule in terms of that. There's not going to be many easy weeks, as you could say. 12th rated toughest schedule in the country, as rated by College Football News. So let's get into it. We'll go week by week and select who we think is going to win the week, and then we'll tally up, and then we'll see how the weeks go on. All right, so we start in
Okay,
Dublin.
let's remember as we go through this, FSU in the AP is number 10. Number 10. And
Absolutely.
you got to finish in the top 12. Remember, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Okay, you got to be in the top 12 to make the playoffs.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, selection committee can pick you wherever they want to pick you. So, I mean,
well, no, we're in this schedule. It's if you win your championship, you take everybody. You control your destiny if you win your championship.
More or less, yeah. All right, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech comes in at 7-6 last year, 4th in the ACC. They get Haynes King as their quarterback, who is a dual threat, which could give Florida State some issues. He ran for over 1,000 yards.
Yes.
But he is a kind of a turnover monster at throwing the ball. But he is a dangerous quarterback. So I believe, and this is a debate among Florida State fans, that Georgia Tech, I believe Florida State will get a challenge out of Georgia Tech. And they kind of brought Georgia to the wire at the end of the season in that rival game last year. But we know how rivalry games can go. I think actually this game being played in Ireland is more an advantage for Georgia Tech than this for Florida State. A lot of new players, a lot of new offensive faces, trying to figure things out with a new quarterback. I think this is going to be, and it's gonna. I don't know how many Georgia Tech fans are going, but it's
not many.
It's not like playing that joke at the same time either. So I think this is going to be, you're traveling overseas. I think it's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to figure out on the road against a team that this isn't like playing FCS school, right? So I think this is going to be a tough one. I think this is going to be a 7 to 10 point game.
The odds are 11 and a half.
And I think it's the odds, I think it's going to be under that. I would take below that. I'm going to take Florida State because I have to take Florida State. If I
don't have to do anything.
No, but if I'm going to believe on Mike Norvell to have the team prepared, because if they don't win that game, then I believe they'll lose many, many games this season. But I have to believe that they'll have a game plan to win this, whether it's by 1 or 11. But I believe it'll be under 11 because I think there's going to be a lot of things to work out after this game. But I'm going to pick Florida State in a very, very tight one.
Well, I think it's a great opening game. It's an exciting opening game. That's what people want to do. I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of Florida State fans there. I mean, to me, that's why it's a neutral stadium or a neutral site for both teams. However, I see it as a home game almost for Florida State based on fan attendance. I think the noise will be on Florida State's side. I think general fans who just show up for the game are going to get into the brand of Florida State. And I think, yes, Georgia Tech is coming in clearly as the underdog. I don't think they have the personnel to stand up to Florida State. Even though this is an opening game, anything can happen. But if Florida State manages themselves and the skilled players they have and all the hype we've heard, I believe Florida State wins this game by 15 points.
Okay. All right. Then you're picking Florida State as well. So we both got Florida State, but you have it. You got the over. So you're taking the line. All right. So we get a week off, and then Florida State gets Boston College. Boston College also 7-6. They had a decent start to the year, but finished 9th in the ACC. This is on September 2nd, so you get a couple of weeks off in between. This is a night.
I don't think they get 2. I think it's more like 10 days, right?
Yeah, this is September 2nd. September 2nd. Yeah. It's Monday night. It's Labor Day.
Now, remember, the Georgia Tech game is a 12 p.m. kick, which sucks. Yeah. Okay? Fans hate that, and players hate that.
Exactly.
So
Well, that's what I
and-
think. There's a lot of
and-
factors in this game. There's
right. And I don't know when Florida State's flying over. I would
Hopefully a
assume
week.
they're going
Hopefully a
on
week.
Wednesday. Huh?
Oh, dude, I would hope sooner than that to get their bodies adjusted to.
Yeah, because it's different, the whole
and,
thing.
And it's
Yeah.
a noon game, like you said. So you're the time change,
Right.
and then it's a noon game. That's a weird, their
It's a
bodies will still be in the
weird
morning.
game. Yeah, it's a weird game. So it could take things a while to get cranked up. Hopefully, it's not going to be sloppy on Florida State's side to do it, and hopefully the weather will be decent. I saw the weather will be cool, kind of a cool weather, not hot and humid. So that's a benefit to both teams. Okay, BC.
All right. Now you got BC Labor Day Monday, so you get a weird Monday game on Labor Day, which isn't, I don't think, great either. But you get them at home. Last year, you had a shootout with them. Their new quarterback, Castellone. Castellone. I'm not even trying to pronounce it.
Castellone.
Yeah, whatever it is. He's a great athletic quarterback. He ran a little bit all over you towards the end of the game there. And then towards the end of the year, he had some turnover problems. That's still an issue. We'll see if he's cleaned that up.
They got a new running back too, right? Did you know that?
Yeah, what is his name?
The guy, Ward from Florida State.
Oh, Trayshawn Ward. Yeah.
Trayshawn Ward comes back to the Doak.
Yeah, he goes from Kansas State to Boston College.
Yeah, he lost his starting position there at Kansas State for whatever reason. And he's going to come back, and he's going to want to run the ball damn hard. So that'll be interesting.
So once again, this is 2 weeks where you'll be facing two
Nice
quarterbacks
kid.
with 1,000 yards. Trayshawn Ward, yeah, exactly, is a good kid. But you have another team that has multiple weapons that can beat you with their speed, and you know what Ward can do. I think the advantage is, once again, you know what the BC game plan is. You've seen this quarterback now 2 years in a row. You know how Ward runs. And I just don't know if Boston College has, these same type of receiving weapons that can beat you. And I don't know if Castellanos can beat you with his arm yet, if he's developed to that kind. I'm going to pick Florida State just once again because I believe the talent levels are on two different levels still, and you have the home field advantage, and it's a night game. So I'm going to go with Florida State at home.
Yeah, it's you've summed it up pretty good. It's a 7:30 kick, which everybody loves, including the players. It's a home game. It's the first home game of the season, basically. The fans are going to be charged up. I heard it's sold out already, basically.
I see tickets available.
It's going to be, there's always tickets available to everything, including the Super Bowl.
$41.
Listen,
$41
yeah,
tickets
you
available.
can get in. You can get in. So this should be the odds. I haven't seen what those are, but this should be Florida State winning by 17 plus points.
Yeah, I agree with you. But once again, these are two teams.
Now we're making these predictions based on this team that we just talked about. Everything could change. You could lose your quarterback. That changes us. I don't, sometimes it's almost you should only go maybe the first 3 games and then cut it off.
This is the roster as configured. Let's just say that.
Yeah, okay. As configured.
Yeah.
Okay.
But once again, those are two teams with two quality quarterbacks that can beat you multiple ways. So this team has to be prepared every single week because this is going to be the same story multiple weeks throughout the year.
Right.
You're not starting with, Ball State or some, a UMass.
You're playing people who can beat you if you're not focused.
And then once again, you go into Memphis, or you're playing Memphis at home once again.
At home.
A 10-3 Memphis team last year who was fourth in the American.
Right.
So a quality opponent, not a overall dominant.
The former school where Mike Norvell was birthed, where he came about before he came to Florida State.
Absolutely. So once again, I'm still going to do some research on Memphis, but this is a team that, by all accounts, is going to give you some battle. But in the end, you're playing at home. This is a team you have to beat. It's going to be the only thing is it's a noon game on September 14th. So it's
another noon kickoff.
Another noon kickoff.
Wait, fans, sucks.
It's not going to be ideal.
Sucks.
But I'm going to go with Florida State at home.
Let me tell you this, in Tallahassee, get to Kiki's breakfast early. Okay? I've done that. You better get there early because the last time we got there, we thought it was early. They ran out of coffee. How the hell do you run out of coffee at a breakfast place? And this is a good place. They give you a good breakfast. Kiki's in Tallahassee on Tennessee. They ran out of coffee. Shit, run down to Costco and buy some.
No. So, but the only thing you gotta watch out for is that this Memphis team was a very, very high octane offense, and so the Florida State defense will have to be ready for that. And that's the thing is, will the offense for Florida State be firing all cylinders, and will they be able to keep up with certain like these teams that want to play high, high pace, putting up points potentially?
This is the third game of the season. Home game for Florida State. They haven't had to go anywhere. They'll be ready for this game. They're going to win this game by 13 plus points.
Okay. I just want to say is that I think Florida State is starting this season with teams that are able to give them trouble. And so it's important that this team does not falter, does not start too slow where they can't ramp it back up, because you don't have the benefit of having Jordan Travis who can get you out of trouble anymore. You have the safety blanket of Jordan Travis, and you had Trey Benson, you had Keon Coleman, you had Johnny Wilson, you had all these safety blankets.
They don't need those guys.
We don't have those weapons. We don't have those known quantities anymore.
Right.
That's the trouble. Is that we have a team of unknowns, especially.
We'll know who the receivers are by this game. And here's the other deal.
I'm talking about Boston College game. I'm talking about Jordan.
No.
That's the thing I'm talking about.
We'll know by the Memphis game who can catch the football. We'll know.
But
we'll know if they can catch the football.
But I'm even seeing week one. I'm saying you can't start too slow where you can't come back because you may not figure it out in time.
They're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to run the football, take the pressure off the pass, which opens that pass, opens those routes more. But this Memphis game, the only upside, if you were to lose, we're going to move on here. We got a lot of teams here. If they were, it's a non-conference game. It doesn't factor into the ACC, where the first two do.
Yeah.
Okay, the first two are conference games. Okay, I got. Let's go to Cal.
Yep.
Cal, one of the worst teams in the country in the last few years. They evaporated out of the Pacific, the Pac-12 that blew up, and so they're reeling. So they're welcoming to the new ACC money and a new home. They come into Florida State on September the 24th. Time we don't know. Could be another noon game, given it's Cal. It's not a marquee game. Florida State wins this game by 21 plus points, in my opinion. I don't know shit about Cal.
Yeah, they're coming off a rough 6-5 or 6-7 season last year. They had a tough schedule last year, but this isn't a team with highly talented roster. They're going to come across the country.
Is it a trap game? Is it a trap game, KB?
It's only a trap game if you make it a trap game. This is a team that's going to be coming into a tough road trip. If this game is flexed to noon, they're coming cross country for it.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough for them. So I'm going to take Florida State. You can't overlook it, but you play.
Note to California: if it's a noon kick, come in on Thursday, not Friday.
Now, this is a trap game for Florida State if they overlook it, is the SMU game. I think this is one of the games that FSU fans can't overlook, and I know SMU...
First real hard road game.
Yeah,
Georgia Tech is more of a home crowd. Yeah.
This will be a game that Florida State fans cannot overlook, and I know SMU fans, this will be one of their biggest games of the year, and I know they will have it sold out. There will be block parties 2 nights before probably, and Dallas will be rocking for this game. I actually looked at getting tickets for this.
That'd be a fun game. That'd be a fun game.
It will be a very fun game, and I know they will be hyped for this. And I can tell you, this will be the circle on their schedule, because if they win this game, this will be their entry to big time college football again. So SMU last year, they went 11 win season for them last year. 11-3 last year. They end the way they want to, but they ripped off their last 9 wins last year. Beating Tulane in the conference title game, maybe, I think. Lost to Oklahoma by 17. I mean, it's not like they were playing a gauntlet of schedule. We know that in the American. But this is, once again, a team that likes to play offensively, puts up a lot of points, can run it on you, can throw it on you, but they like to pass the ball on you, and they're not afraid. They can put up some points if you're not ready for them. And I think they're going to have an aggressive game plan on Florida State, and they're going to go, like they say, balls to the wall to try to show up Florida State at home. And Florida State's got to be prepared for them. They got to have an aggressive game plan to try to shut them down early. Because this is going to be one of the most ruckus crowds are going to experience all season long. I'll be very interested to see what the line is for this game once it comes out, because I think it may be pretty close in that 7 to 10 point range for Florida State. Once again, I'm going to have to go with Florida State just because Florida State will have the talent advantage, but that atmosphere and I think how SMU has played over the years, and SMU does have talent on the team. That's not to say they don't. But I think the talent gap is strong for Florida State, but I think the home field could give some points over to SMU. But I'm going to go with Florida State overall.
I'm going to go with Florida State. I think maybe SMU's a little overhyped. Their first 4 games before they play us are nobodies. So Nevada, they'll be undefeated. Yeah, this game is going to get some hype. I expect it'll be an evening kickoff game. The time hasn't been announced. I think because both teams will be undefeated, there'll be a lot of hype around this game.
They'll probably be ranked coming in.
Yeah, but no,
because of that, because they
top
play nobody.
20. They'll be in the top 20. They don't play anybody coming in. I think by then, Florida State, if we get where we need to be, all cylinders are hitting, and we're going to win this game by 12 plus points.
To be clear, they don't play an ACC school before us.
Yeah,
this is like they play Nevada, Houston Christian, Nevada, BYU, and TCU.
BYU and TCU will be there. We'll see how they do in those games. That'll tell us a lot more. Florida State wins by 12 plus points.
All right. And then you get your rival, Clemson, finally at home. You've knocked that whatever you want to call it off your shoulder last year. And you said Florida State needed to do it last year, right? They needed to prove that they could do it. They did it last year in overtime. You got that monkey off your shoulder.
It's another home game, though. We get another home game.
Yeah, which is good, which is great.
Which will be an evening kick.
Yeah, which will definitely be an evening kick.
Or
and
3.
Dabo, Dabo and the boys. And you know you can beat them now, right? You've shown it. You've got that curse done. Norvell shows he can do in the big games. And we all know Clemson's beatable now. We know what their team can do. We know they have a great defense. We know they have some studs in that
and
team.
They don't have what's-his-name, who's been there about 10 years. Who's that running back they had? He's in the NFL now.
Yeah.
God, guy's there for 10 years.
But I think actually their running back situation is better than him. But no, you're right. He's gone finally. But they have some studs, and you're going to have
Like Klubnik's a decent enough quarterback.
He's good, but he's not elite.
He can beat you. No, but he can beat you.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in their system. He's been in their system. He understands their system.
And they'll likely be top 15. They'll be likely a top 15 team when you meet them. And the spread right now, it looks like on ESPN, it's going to be -3.5.
It's too early to even look at those spreads.
But it's going to be top 15. If Florida State is undefeated, Clemson, it could be a top 10 matchup. So I'm going to go Florida State at home. If Florida State's healthy and they are still undefeated at this point, I'm gonna have to go with Florida State, because if they've proven through these 5 weeks that they can beat everyone on their schedule, then I have to go with Florida State at home. And I'll go, that 3-point line makes sense to me. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Florida State can do it at home, especially since they went on the road and did it.
Well, the key here is it's at home. Florida State, again, like I said, should be hitting on all cylinders. They'll come out of Dallas into this game. It'll be a huge sellout crowd with a huge national television audience. And if our team's intact and physically ready, we'll beat Clemson. 7+ points. I have it as 7+. There will be nothing sweeter than beating Dabo Swinney. I cannot stand this guy. He ranks right there with Steve Spurrier in my eyes. Just a pain in the ass. And Dabo, the guy who doesn't believe in the portal, you don't want him to have those bragging rights running off the field. This would be a huge disappointment for FSU fans and me personally, and I know for you, KB, I'd have to turn it off. At the end. I can't watch this guy. And so, but I see the Noles winning this game. And most importantly, It is a key contest in the conference, okay?
Yep.
And some people are saying Florida State will win this game, but Clemson will still find their way into the championship game. They will defeat Florida State. That's what some people on their crystal balls. So you could see them twice.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. We'll move on to Duke. You travel to Duke to face them. They gave you a tough test last year.
7 o'clock kick. It's already been announced.
Yeah, that place will be.
That's
packed.
weird. How do they already announce that time when nothing else? 3 or 4 other weeks, there's no announcement.
Is it a Friday night game?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a Friday night game.
Okay. It's
Yep.
Friday night?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So
That's
Friday
why.
Friday night in Durham. It'll be on ESPN2. So it's Duke. So it'll be packed. It won't be. There's not a ton of fans.
You could get down to that one. That's close, man.
Yeah. It'll be packed.
Tickets won't be expensive either. There'll be a lot of Florida State people there because we could be undefeated rolling in there.
But they played you tough last year.
They got a new coach, and they got a new
quarterback too.
They got a decent quarterback.
They got
unproven.
Malik Murphy from Texas.
Unproven.
And he's athletic, and he played some games last
Yes.
year, and he showed what he could do.
Let me do a shout out to one of our backup quarterbacks. Who's that? Trevor Jackson.
Yep.
Yeah, he's one of our. He is playing the role of these mobile quarterbacks on the scout team.
Yeah.
He's playing the role of Haynes King for the Georgia as the scout team that they're bragging because our Trevor Jackson very mobile, very much like these guys.
Yeah. So I think once again, this could be a trap game. Friday night on the road in Durham, it'll be packed, and new coach Manny Diaz, new scheme going in there. Malik Murphy, new quarterback you haven't seen before. This is a trap game, if any there was one. So I'll be interested to see what the line for this game is. Once again, I got to pick Florida State in this because you do have the talent advantage going into this game.
You can't lose to Duke. It's a conference game.
If any game should be circled as you can't overlook this game, coming off Clemson game though, you will be banged up. It's a short week coming off of Clemson. This has trap game written all over it. All over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got Florida State, I'm assuming?
Oh, absolutely.
This game will be super tight.
Hugely disappointing. There's no excuses
but this
for a loss
game will
here.
be 10 points. This game will be within 10 points.
I think Florida State wins by 10 plus.
That'll be a tough game.
10
All right.
plus. Okay.
Week after, you get a longer week, thankfully.
Don't be looking ahead.
Yo.
Don't be looking ahead.
You get an extra day though. You get Miami you go to Miami on the road.
Yeah.
That's
going to be a night game. I don't know. I haven't looked at Miami and where their record. They could. A lot of people like Miami. A lot of people like Miami and their new quarterback, Cam Ward.
They play Florida week 1.
That's going to be a good game. I'll watch that. My grandson's going to that game. Miami and University of Florida.
And then they'll probably be undefeated. The only tough games they have on their schedule up to that point is Virginia Tech and Louisville. And then it could be undefeated. So once again, Miami could be top 15 at this point. It could be a top 15 matchup, top 10 matchup.
That could be another huge game on the schedule. And a conference game for Florida State down there.
So once again, it depends. Spread will be tight. They're ranked number 19 now. I got to go Florida State. Florida State beat them last year. Florida State looks very similar to this year. It's going to be, and this prediction will change. It'll probably change in my mind based on what I've seen up to this point. But if Florida State looks and has beaten everyone on their schedule up to this point, I would pick Florida State because if they can beat Clemson, if they beat Clemson at this point, there's no reason why they shouldn't beat Miami.
This game, I go with Florida State. They're going to beat Miami down in Miami, and it's going to come down to special teams play.
Yeah.
This is a game where the special teams are going to make the difference, and it could come down to a last-minute field goal.
And I see this game will come down to offensive line. I think Miami has a potentially better, if not up to the better or close to the better defensive line of Florida State, and it'll be up to does this offensive line do what it's been saying it can do and be great to elite, and that's what everyone tells us. If Florida State's offensive line does not protect DJU and live up to the hype and experience, then Florida State will lose this game.
And
its
Mr.
offensive line has to protect and it'll open running lanes and protect for DJU for them.
And Mr. Daryl Jackson better have the game of his life. That's the game. He needs to show up and show out in what he is, because he's going to have had plenty of games in front of him, and this will be a huge game.
Yeah. And then we travel to, we host the Tar Heels. They are coming off a struggle last year, a little bit of a struggle last year.
Trying to find a quarterback. I don't think they went into the portal to get a quarterback, did they? I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
But what they have, though, is one of the best running backs. No, they got Max Johnson out of Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah. He's got experience, but
they have one of the best running backs in the country. So really, it's going to come down to your defense. And I believe Florida State defense, especially at home, can do the job. But this is a team that will be able to put up points. And once again, if defense does its job, if defense is locked in, this is a game you should not lose. You should not lose this game.
Not at home.
Not at home. But the defensive backs can do the job. Defensive line can do the job. This is a team that will be able to put up 30 points per game for UNC. But the defense can hold up. The defense plays like it did last year. This game you should win at home. No issue.
Florida State wins at home in another conference game they cannot afford to lose.
No.
And they must win this game. They'll win by 10.
If they shut down Omarion Hampton, you win this game outright.
There's no reason this defense shouldn't shut him down.
And the toughest game of the season, in my opinion, is this game right here. Notre Dame in South Bend. I think this is a game that I feel very few people
It's
are
already
actually
been
talking
announced,
about.
7:30 p.m., another big national contest for the Noles.
Yeah, I think this is a game that I feel nobody's talking about enough for Florida State. And I think this is the game that Florida State will actually, depending on how the roster looks and how Notre Dame looks, but right now, how things shape up in that environment and how they've compiled their team and how their defense. The only thing I doubt about Notre Dame is their offense right now, and how that's their offense right now. I know Notre Dame's defense is going to be elite and be great. Their offense, their offensive transfer portal thing didn't work out really well last year, but they have another quarterback in. They brought in another transfer quarterback.
Who'd they get? Who'd they bring in?
They brought in what's the guy's name? What's his name? Not from.
It doesn't matter.
Move on. It does matter.
Well, we'll get to it sometime.
What the fuck is this? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Riley Leonard from Duke. So you've seen him before.
Riley Leonard, yeah. So he's a decent quarterback.
Exactly, and he got hurt in the Duke game last year against us. But
they brought in the guy from Wake Forest, and he didn't.
Well, that's
do
what
much.
I'm saying. They've seen this.
It's
We've seen this experiment.
New system, yeah.
Exactly, but I think Riley Leonard's a more.
Yeah, he's a quality guy.
Exactly.
He's a quality guy.
It's whether or not that the offensive experiment will work for Notre Dame. But you know what they do. They have great offensive lines. They have great tight ends, and their defense is elite. And I think if this game was played at Florida State, I think Florida State has the edge. But I think with this game being on the road in South Bend, I'm going to Notre Dame. I think this is the game that Florida State loses.
Wow. Here's the good news. The good news is this doesn't count as a conference game. Not in football. Notre Dame is part of the ACC in every sport except football. They're a major independent. They're not part of the ACC. So if you've got to lose a game, which they could, FSU could, depending on the health of this team. We don't know that. Yep. And the development all the way through the season of players, it's going to be a tight game. I think this is a 3-point or less contest. Yeah, okay. Yep. Now, this is in November.
Yep.
The heat tends to get longer. I don't think it's going to be super cold, but it's going to be a cool game. It's going to be a football game like it should be played. Damn. I'm going to go Florida State wins with a last-second field goal. I think this is a special teams game. Whoever plays better special teams, I'm going to take the Noles. But if they have to lose, this is a game to lose.
Yeah, I think it'll be super tight. I think the environment. It's going to be tough.
Your season is still good if you've won all your conference games to this point.
If there's a game to lose, it's that one, because I think Notre Dame will be highly ranked, and like you said, it doesn't count for the standings. If anything, it just counts for seeding purposes potentially.
Yes, at large bids.
Large bids.
At large bids.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have to lean on that. You don't want to have to lean on that.
But if
You
it's a
wanna
close
control.
game, that can maybe
Of course,
still play into consideration.
especially if Notre Dame's been playing good football.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then we'll skip Charleston Southern.
Well, Jacksonville State.
Okay,
Can't forget
well,
that.
if
but
we're
I
in
know.
that, if
We're
in
going to
that
go
position,
Florida State. No,
okay.
I'm going to go
and then
Florida
we have the
State.
Gators. Then we have the Gators.
Well, you remember Charleston?
Okay,
Charleston. Remember how they played the Gators? Remember how they played the Gators? They played the Gators so tough at Gainesville. Okay, they played the Gators so tough. I think they were up some point by like 20 points. Now I could be totally wrong, and you guys could call me out on that, obviously. But this should not be a struggle for the Noles. This is a tune-up game for the Noles. Both KB and KB will be right back. Florida State's going to win this game, and they should win this game by 15 points easily, even if they're looking ahead to play the Gators. So let's move into that big game. This is playing the Gators. We get them at home again. We get them in Tallahassee. The Gators, could they have fired their coach by the time they reach this? The Gators have one of the top 5 or maybe the top 2 or 3 schedules in the entire country that they're playing. So, and their team is kind of in disarray. I don't think anybody understands what they have at this point. But I will say this. That we're going to find out a lot about the Gators team. We're going to find a lot about the Miami team in that opening game when Miami comes into Gatorland to play that game. That is going to be a very interesting game. And this game I'm definitely going to watch. Okay? But Florida State should be able to handle their business at home against the Gators. This could be, it's always, an in-state rivalry game. It's going to be sold out. Hopefully it'll be an evening kickoff, but generally this game will be a 12 to 3 p.m. type of kick. It'll be full capacity. And you know what? I expect Florida State to win this game. I expect that they'll stay at this point with their run game. They'll pound the ball at Florida. And then they'll throw strategically, and they're going to win this game by 12.5 points, and they'll pull away in the second half by wearing down the Gators in this regard. So put me in as the Noles win this game, KB.
All right. I think we'll definitely learn a lot when they play Miami. But I think so many things change from that point to when we face Miami or when we face Florida. Then it won't matter at that point. But I get what you're saying. With Florida, like you said, the wheels could have fallen off by the time we play them. But you've always said that the rivalry games, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
How many times have we, or we played a rival and they're playing with an interim coach, or vice versa, when we were going from Jimbo Fisher, from Willie to, Odell has been the coach during a bowl game or a rivalry game, during those times, right? Because you're in, you fire a coach and then it still doesn't matter because the games are still close because, so I think, there's a very high potential based on Florida's schedule that we're facing an interim coach because right in that November time
Which gets them fired up.
Well, exactly. Gets them fired up, and they fire them around that time to keep that, hopefully try to salvage that class right before early signing day in December.
Right.
So that's when it would happen. And that's because the Gator schedule, as you know, and everyone knows, is so tough that if they're likely not going to survive the gauntlet. But if they do, this could be a barely, this could be a top 10, top 15 matchup.
Always.
If they survive that gauntlet, this could be a top 15 matchup, which would be great for Florida State once again. If they don't, then it's great for Florida State because they lose their coach. So this is a win, but Florida State has to do their job up until that point for that to be a great scenario.
Yeah,
but
the good news, the good news, it's a non-conference game. The bad news is if you lose this game and you were to lose to Notre Dame, you're at large. You're done. Even if you go into the championship game and lose, you're out. That'd be
that's
3
your 3
losses.
losses. That's your 3 losses. Yeah.
I don't even think I don't think you can get to an at large with 2 losses in
You're
the
unranked
ACC.
too. You're unranked too.
Yeah. and because you're supposed to take care of your business at home, all right? Now
that is the scenario. That's the fine bomb scenario right there. If
Yeah.
you lose to Notre Dame, you lose to the Gators, but then gets the ACC championship because you're undefeated in ACC play,
and you
then
lose
lose that,
to
then that's,
Clemson,
and then
or
that
whoever,
that would be 3
you're done.
losses.
You're done.
And you would be unranked.
You're done. You've given every excuse to the pickers that you're done. So you control your own destiny from the beginning of the season to the end. You win out, you're in. You win out, you're in. Otherwise, you got to look for help. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. So this is how it looks. So you have Florida State going undefeated.
Based on the roster we saw, without injuries, without, stuff like that. Yeah. Now, we have a chance to amend these based on the reality of the game.
Well, maybe we can do a mid-season.
Well, if we lose,
revision.
if DJU goes down in the first game against Georgia Tech, it changes that.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to talk like that. We're doing it.
Well, I'm not I'm talking reality. I'm not into superstition.
But
you may be into superstition. Here, knock on wood. I'll knock on wood.
But injuries are a part of football. We can't do it.
I understand that.
A guy hurt his ankle. He's out for a week. Can I change my prediction for 1 week? That's stupid. Yeah. It's a part of football. It's a
but Vegas odds change all the time.
We're not
based on they don't.
We didn't do these based on Vegas odds.
No, they've got Vegas odds on every game, like you went through the schedule, but. You don't think they alter those up to the moment?
This is why. Well, this is why
DJU's got the flu, can't play. They're going to alter the odds.
This is why we do a weekly preview show so we can do our latest pick.
I understand. And when is our next preview show there, KB? Tell everybody.
Thursday night will be our preview show, so be sure to look out for
your
notification. 7:30. 7:30 on Thursday. So look out for the notification. Be sure to subscribe ahead of time. But yes, look on Twitter. We'll announce the time. It'll be 7:30 or 8 on Thursday. We may have a special guest from the Georgia Tech side to help preview that. And we'll discuss we'll go through the matchup a little bit more in depth. We'll discuss our ins and outs there. A little bit more in depth, obviously, than we did today. But yeah, we'll go through that Thursday night and get you all thoughts.
And right now, we're scheduled to be talking on a Georgia Tech program Tuesday night.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah. Yeah, you have the information for that, so you should share that on Twitter once you have it.
I will share that on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll share that on Twitter, so make sure you follow us there on Seminole Sideline 365. The old man will share that.
I got to get his permission to share it.
Yeah, we should be on that show, hopefully on Tuesday night as well, so you can
around
join
8
us on there.
o'clock.
Join us there. If not, be sure to join us on Thursday as
well.
Bring
your comments. Bring your Florida State comments to that program. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, well, is there anything else you want to...
No, the last thing I had, and then we're out of here. Real quick, we're not even going to discuss it. 15 August was supposedly a key date for FSU to file that they wanted to leave the ACC. Okay, now that has nothing to do with a lawsuit. It's about if you want to leave, then you have to file by the 15th of August out, or you're staying in and playing an ACC schedule. And I get it. They have to set schedules.
Yeah.
Supposedly 15 August was a key date. It came and went. So for whatever worth that is, now maybe Florida State's thinking, well, if we settle this lawsuit, we'll just frickin' leave and take our chances.
Yeah, I think
and do an independent schedule. I don't know.
I mean, that would be better than playing the ACC.
No, I guarantee you, when Florida State settles this lawsuit, they're going to leave. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now they may say we'll finish out 25 here, and then in 26 we're gone.
Playing a year independence and signing a deal with Pluto TV and signing a great
There's
schedule.
a lot of places you can sign a contract.
I mean, honestly, I think it would be better for.
Yeah, they're going to get out. It's a matter of when, but I don't know. That date was supposedly big. It's not big anymore. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you all for joining us. If you're watching it live,
right.
We appreciate you and your comments. If you're watching this post-production, we appreciate you too. But join us this Thursday for the Georgia Tech preview show, and then we'll also be doing a Friday or a Saturday post-game show. So be sure to set your calendars for that. So we'll go live with that at 3 o'clock or 3:30 whenever the game wraps up to get our post-game reactions to that. So hopefully that's a win and we can celebrate. If not, well, maybe we'll break something.
Oh, no. There's no doubt. What are you talking about?
All right,
win.
Well, we got a busy week ahead, guys. So thank you all again for your time, your support. Share, like, and subscribe. Have a great week upcoming. We'll have a yeah, have a great, safe week. Enjoy your time.
And KB, are you going to have Guinness beer on Thursday night?
No, I don't drink that crap. All right. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you soon, and enjoy your work week coming up. Take
All right,
care.
laters, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.